Hello, Stuffies crew. Welcome back to
31 Minecraft facts you maybe missed. Minecraft is chock full of different blocks, mobs, and items, which means it's tough to keep track of all the different information. So today we're going through the Minecraft facts that might have passed you by. And hey, according to YouTube, no one's ever subscribed to the channel using their elbow. So if you're up to the challenge,
oh wait, forgot about that.
I've seen plenty of people build their bases across the overworld and the nether, but a distinct lack of them in the end dimension, which makes some sense considering neither beds nor respawn anchors let us respawn in the house. But as you can see, if you place a bed like so underneath the overworld's end portal and then set our spawn, we can set ourselves up to only spawn in the last dimension. And at that point, you might as well socialize with the neighbors, because now you're soft locked and you're permanently stuck there. Number 2, we're all plenty familiar with piglins, but maybe not like this. And to change their look like that, we'll have to head over to the nether. Then we get our piglins into a pen and flip the switch on a dispenser to equip different items, which clearly can create some odd monstrosities. Or if you want to look at it like this Reddit user, and they're just an anime girl wearing a hat. And honestly, I don't know which is worse to see. Number 3, if you've ever made a mob farm, you know you're bound to get some pieces of armor mixed in with the results, which would be nice, but they're usually so battered that it just lasts a little more than a few hits. Or that would be the case if we didn't try this. In Bedrock Edition, when we drown a zombie, you'll get its armor all fully repaired, meaning if you get one of these guys with a full set of armor, that'll save—
Okay, don't play Bedrock Edition. If you play Bedrock Edition, I don't really care. But Bedrock Edition is absolute trash. Just play Java Edition. It's way better.
Give you 24 ingots, and you don't even have to craft it, which definitely means this is worth adding into your next zombie spawner. Number 4, if you've messed around with Minecraft's hidden mobs, then you've probably come across this guy, the Illusioner, who among them— if you've messed around with Minecraft's hidden mobs—
what are these? A giant zombie horse is already a thing. A killer bunny, an agent, an NPC, Elder Guardian Ghost, and the Illusioner. I'll have to look up the agent.
And you probably come across this guy, the Illusioner, who, among their many abilities, has the chance to have hidden mobs. Then you probably come across this guy, the Illusioner, who, among their many abilities, has the chance to seemingly create 3 clones for distraction. But what you might not have noticed is that he doesn't create just 3 copies, he makes 4. And then, after doing that, the original becomes invisible, or rather, gives off the invisibility particles at its location, which I guess would be a useful tip if you could fight them, but since they're not fully implemented anyway, I think it's safe to say this is just a fun bit of info. Number 5, Minecraft famously has its share of visual quirks, and while we've talked at length about those in the past, this one just cracks me up. See, if we were to hold a ladder as an item in our hands, it has about the same amount of depth as anything else. But when you place that same ladder on the side of a block, it turns paper thin. I mean, this ladder has less depth than a ladder item dropped on the floor. And unless we get something like default 3D in the base game, I guess it'll be a fun thing to notice going forward. Number 6, after playing hours of Minecraft, it's easy to lose track of the different sound effects as they blend into the background, which is why you might not have recognized this. But as it is, if you break a tripwire, it actually plays the same sound effect you'll hear from the bow. As a comparison, here's the tripwire hook, and here's the bow. Which is interesting, but I also can't blame you if you never noticed it, because really, unless you're raiding Jungle Temple, how often does this come up anyway? But props to Mojang, they reused the sound effect, and I was none the wiser. Number 7, Minecraft's world border is an odd piece of code, and when you fly out 30 million blocks to visit, you'll see as much. But while there's been plenty of—
Salty did it. Salty did it. Go subscribe to Salty. Go subscribe to Farzy. If you don't subscribe to him, what are you doing?
attention given to these glitches, I think this is equally strange. See, if you get a spider next to the border wall, then the mobs will start climbing it as they would any other, which I guess makes some sense, but I'd figure that since we can't place any of our blocks on it, they'd have nothing to grab onto, and it's maybe the only chance they'll ever have it climbing up to build height. Number 8. In the texture update of 1.14, Minecraft got a bunch of changes to its look, and while that was an impressive undertaking, when you're changing around that many textures, some are bound to be overlooked, and this is just that. As you'll notice, if you check your inventory while you're in spectator mode, you'll recognize that the barrier texture used is that of the old one, and while it's definitely not game-breaking, it is a fun thing to notice. Number 9. If you've ever messed around with a fishing rod, and you know that these things are great—
First of all, why can you enchant a fishing rod? Why? Why can you enchant a fishing rod? What's the point of enchanting it? I mean, like, what's the point of it? Why do you
pulling around different mobs. But what's even more peculiar is that we can pull around entities as well. And I don't think many of us expected TNT to be on that list. But apparently, if you cast a line towards a prime TNT block, we can move that explosive in some way. And hey, since we can also light the bobber on fire with lava, we could use it to ignite it in the same go. Which is cool, but any application for this seems highly situational. Number 10. Bedrock, as we're all familiar with it, is a pretty strong block. But obviously, we've also seen our fair share of glitches and bugs to break the unbreakable. And while that's true, this might be both the strangest and the simplest method in my book. See, in Bedrock Edition, if you lay a cauldron underneath a piece of bedrock, or any block for that matter, and then fill it in twice with powdered snow buckets, the result is a powdered snow block in place of that bedrock. And what's even better is that we can reuse that same snow for doing it all.
Do it in Bedrock Edition if you can't even place blocks on the nether roof.
All over again. Number 11. If you've messed around with the summon command, you know Minecraft has some weird entities in the code. And since they're not traditional, it means we get some odd behaviors when you mix them, like you'll see here. Now, when you light a block of TNT on fire, it turns into a prime TNT as you would expect. But what might surprise you is that if we then shoot this new entity with arrows, our projectiles just bounce off, which means that the only way that we're mixing TNT with arrows
say you're trying to kill somebody, you light it, you cock up your arrow, shoot it, boom, bounces off, and say they don't take enough damage, it shoots
command blocks. Number 12. Even though you can't see it, it's not a surprise that the ground underneath this snow layer is made up of grass blocks, and you can break it to see as much. But while that grass may look normal when we place a torch, when it's underneath the snow, it's something entirely different. And through the help of an Enderman, we can see that texture for ourselves. See, if an Enderman were to pick up one of these snowy grass blocks, they'd ditch the snow and just be the strange silver turf instead. And while it doesn't offer much functionality outside of being a grass block, it is still a cool souvenir. Number 13. Boats haven't always been the easiest to use, and some players definitely remember the pains of crashing one of these on a floating obstacle. But thankfully nowadays, it's fixed so that when you crash, you just subscribe to the channel. But even with that fixed, these boats still have plenty of quirks to see. In Bedrock, it's entirely possible to tie your boat to the other end of a lead and drag the thing around.
I mean, in Bedrock Edition, you can probably tie every single lead to an entity. Could you do it to TNT?
Why you would do this, I have no idea, since I'd rather just break the boat and carry it that way. But if you need to, I guess it works. Number 14. Even though Minecraft's textures are simple, a surprising amount of care can go into them. And if you take the time to really study a certain block, you might notice something new. For instance, some of you might be surprised. And if you take the time to really study a certain block, you might notice something.
Those were bears. Look at that. Bears. How's that a saddle?
New. For instance, some of you might be surprised to see that the prismarine texture is actually animated. What's happening here is that the block is slowly transitioning from a bluish hue to a green one. And honestly, without the help of a time lapse or a chart, I would have no way to be able to notice. But I guess
so it's like copper. Ah! I'm a pro with this.
This settles any debates going forward. Is it blue? Is it green? Well, it's both. Number 15. Minecraft Redstone is a beautiful thing, but it's not always the most intuitive. And a key instance of that would be this example's so-called leaf stone. Now, that might sound silly, but it's actually true that leaves are capable of transferring block updates. See, since these leaves have a tag that updates whenever a log is nearby, we can use an observer to detect that signal. And in that way, we can send quick updates just by moving a log with a piston, which seems crazy, but I know there's pros out there who can think of plenty of practical uses for it. Number 16. Minecraft is famous for its random generation based off a string of integer values. And I think we've all come across these so-called seeds when booting up one that we found online or typing in one of our own. Though on the chances you don't do either, how does the game come up with the seed? Well, the answer is more straightforward than you might think. When left to automatically generate a seed, the game will just use the system's time as that seed. And through this, we're able to access a sliver of the over 18 quintillion possible seeds. And I doubt any of our clocks have enough time to showcase all of those. Number 17. Horses aren't the most ideal form of travel. I mean, you have to spend the time to painstakingly breed for the right stats, only for your special steed to max out his speed, the time to painstakingly breed for the right stats.
Can you dye leather armor?
Only for your special steed to max out his speed that's slower than the elytra.
I'm testing it right now, y'all.